Hi, my name's Gamper Cuthbert and I'm the chair of the board at SportCheer England, the national governing body for the sport of competitive cheerleading, and I'm also the head of engagement for Impact Dance and Art for Social Change hip hop dance theatre company. So within the sports of cheer and dance, there are some really urgent safeguarding issues that we need to be challenging and tackling, and they are both sports that have never really had any regulation around them. So one of the first things from a kind of top level strategy perspective is that SportCheer England as a new national governing body needs to be putting in policies and processes in place to create safeguards, to create base levels of expectation around coaches that are delivering in the sport. So we've set up membership, and as part of that membership we require coaches to show us police background checks, to show us safeguarding course education, to show us their qualifications, and for those things to be verified. And while those for many other sports might seem the basics, in a sport that's never had to have those things before, some of those things are new asks. So we realise there's actually an education piece that comes before the submission of documentation, which is an education for coaches around why safeguarding is important, why safeguarding is important to support the young people in their care, and why it's important to safeguard themselves and their business as a sport as well. So there's this high level piece of strategy around policy and process and how we do reporting, and then there's the on the ground piece which kind of links to it to engage coaches. And I think to understand why safeguarding is a really exciting space, athlete welfare, if it's done right, it's going to do all the things that you're hoping to get out of your athletes anyway, around increasing performance, retention in your club, because they feel it's a safe space for them to come, to stay, and also to take risks, so to improve their athletic performance. So we know when we have more diverse groups of people in the space, we have higher quality conversations, decision making, and we also have better sporting communities. In my role at SportCheer England, I've been privileged to be involved in the development of the adaptive abilities division, which is our disability divisions. I was involved from the inception and the creation of those, and the opportunity to develop adaptive abilities teams across the country, and for them to be now happening in clubs and opening up that opportunity to disabled people to participate in cheerleading, which is a sport that for lots of reasons could have barriers for them to feel that it's not something for them, is just an incredible way to open up the sport. From my role at Impact Dance, which is a Black-led arts organisation, I am working predominantly with young people from African and Caribbean diaspora, and my work there has really intersected with and learning in that space has really intersected with the work that I've been doing at SportCheer England. Cheerleading has a stereotype as quite a white, homogenous, heteronormative kind of image that again, for Black potential athletes, those from underrepresented minorities coming into that space, there are potentially barriers that coaches are not even thinking about and seeing in a sport that has a kind of appearance, performance element to it. Even just something as simple as thinking about how athletes are going to wear their hair for competition. If everyone has to have a sleek, straight ponytail, that's going to create a barrier for an athlete who has afro or textured hair, which was kicked off by Black History Month last year, giving monthly kind of tips and support to coaches in clubs as to just small actions that they can take to make their clubs more open and welcoming. And I think we talk about access and inclusion often as one thing, but they're two. It's one thing to say we are accessible and to give access to a space, but to be able to go into that space and actually feel included is another thing. And we've had coaches who've said, we'd love to have more disabled athletes in we'd love to start a disability team, but we don't have any disabled people in our area. And I'm like, you absolutely do, but they don't feel like what you're offering is for them. You know, don't wait for somebody in a wheelchair to come before you build a ramp to your gym. I'm really passionate about the power that sport has to transform lives, and I got to witness that firsthand when I was an athlete. I was introduced to the sport of cheerleading through a club which was actually an outreach project in East London, working with young people in an area of high deprivation. And while those young people came from potentially some quite challenging backgrounds, the way that the sport of cheerleading brought them together, the teamwork, the athleticism, the hard work, the drive, not only were they consistently national champions, but that drive and understanding that they could be champions became an aspiration that they took into their adulthood. I've had the privilege of still knowing many of those young people who went on to be the first in their families to ever go to university or to college, who became entrepreneurs, who've become business leaders. And I truly believe that the skills that they learn through the sport are what encouraged them and raised their aspirations. And it's so powerful that that moment has been a real driver to why not only I want to be involved at a national governing body level in promoting the sport of cheerleading, but it's why I'm so passionate about safeguarding, because we need to safeguard young people in this sport, because when it's at its best, it is the most incredible, powerful tool to build leaders for life.